So just so everyone knows, we're recording this for folks who couldn't make it, and throughout the application period, um, we'll be welcoming and we'll post a link on the website and through our emails. Um, and please share your questions on the chat anytime. It might be quicker that way, or wait till the end. And also keep your microphones muted just in case you have a crazy cat or something. Yeah, let's see. Has everyone seen the team? Yeah.
Yes, we are, Justin. We can see
Okay.
that.
All right, good. My computer's lagging. My RAM is running out. Anyways, I'll get Ray to introduce themselves and we'll go from there.
All right, great. Thanks, Justin. My name is Ray Burridge Goodwin. I'm one of the coordinators for the ImaGENation program with Justin. We have Aubrey Ann, our manager, and Alexandra Thompson as our director for the program. I don't know if Alexandra will be joining us today, but we will have myself, Justin, and Aubrey Ann to answer any questions that y'all may have. I'm currently located on Algonquin Anishinaabe territory in so-called Ottawa, Ontario. I'm originally from the States, from Wampanoag territory in Massachusetts, and have been with the ImaGENation team for a little over a year and a half. Really a big fan of the work that we're doing and very excited to onboard cohort two once we get the applications in from you fine folks if you have any questions. And yeah, so I'll let Justin take it away and then Aubrey Ann can speak about themselves as well. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so, a lot, Ray. I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Aubriana Liberty Pio Pasconius. I'm joining you folks from Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis in what's currently called Saskatoon. So I'm very excited to be here and speak a little bit to this incredible, groundbreaking in a lot of ways program that allows Indigenous youth to, really create a future that they want to see themselves a part of in their own way. And it's really amazing. I have been with the team for less than a month. So I'm quite new to the ImaGENation program. However, I've been involved with ICE since about 2019, so I'm very well versed in, what ICE does to empower the community around them, and what our folks in the team are doing to kind of, initiate that as well. So I'm very excited to be here. I am the program manager, so I get the privilege of working with the lovely Ray and Justin and reporting to Alexandra. So we're very excited about what's to come, and we won't delay further. And I'll hand it off to Justin to introduce himself as well, and then we'll get into the program.
Yeah, thanks, Aubrianne. Yeah, a little bit about myself. I've been the ImaGENation coordinator basically since the start with Alexandra, a little over 2 years now, and I'm living on unceded Okanagan Silk territory near Kelowna, BC. I work closely with teams. I'm all about relationships. I work with the mentors, project advisor, to help teams reach their project goals and connect people, connect with them with resources. A little bit about me. I'm from Edmonton, a Swedish settler background. I was a school teacher, a carpenter, and a mechanic. And yeah, thanks everyone for taking the time out of your days to join us and learn a little bit more about the program. Um, the goal is to get a sense of if you want to join the program, make an application, how to make your application stronger, and really any sizable project can get a little uncomfortable and challenging at times, as we've learned from cohort one. But if you have a good, solid team and a good plan, you'll reach amazing milestones, and we're learning so much. So you're inspiring the next generation to build a clean energy future through guided project development, kinship building, shared learning, in-person opportunities, skill building opportunities. The list goes on. So let's get into it. Just a quick program overview and a little bit about ICE, which is our delivering partner who we're working for. The ImaGENation story is a little complex, and everyone always goes, "What is ImaGENation?" So we're being housed under the ICE social enterprise, where our programming is centered around community and an emphasis around building capacity, fostering cooperation and collaboration, and ingraining culture with every element of our programming. And we have a lot of programs. It just keeps growing and growing. And we have not enough time to get into each one of them, but there are a lot of ImaGENation teams that have been introduced through this programming, whether it's bringing home generation power, catalysts, and now Project Accelerator, which did I even put in here? Yeah, it's growing so fast I can't even update things fast enough. And with that, I'd like to pass it off to Aubrey.
Yes, so it's very exciting that we're housed under Indigenous Clean Energy, but it also is a partnership with Student Energy and the 7Gen Council as well. So we have a lot of moving parts and a lot of brilliant expertise that goes into this program with our project partners, as well as with our advisors who come on board, and the youth themselves who bring in amazing ideas that we have the privilege of, getting to see and support. And so ImaGENation, it was derived to, create space for Indigenous youth, really empower them. And oftentimes, what many of us would hear, and myself being in the clean energy space as a youth once upon a time, is, that we weren't really being engaged at the level we would like. People thought they could just train us and then we'd have to wait a few years until we were seen as experts in this space and then we could be employed. But what ImaGENation really strives to do is see Indigenous youth as experts right now and to empower them throughout this program process, and allow them to share with us what they want to learn. And then we kind of adjust and try to make sure we find them the right advisors, find them the proper funding, and really try to get these projects up and moving. So what we do is there is quite a bit of capacity building within it, of course. We do want to train the youth throughout the program, which is very exciting. And so it's for youth ages 18 to 30. And sometimes people talk to us and think that that doesn't necessarily seem like the youth age, but it's a really amazing opportunity too. And of course, a lot of the folks that go into the program too are interested in making sure that we're educating our little ones as well, that are below those ages too in these processes. So it's really quite beautiful how it plays into a whole scope of a community. What we also get to do though is it's grounded in kinship. And so people create really strong relationships throughout this program as well. And I think that that's something that really stands out with ImaGENation, is it's not something where you'll just hop into a webinar once a month and meet with your project advisor on like every so often. It's something that, people really get to engage themselves in and create long-lasting relationships and friendships that really help us in this clean energy space together. There's also technical mentors who are completely brilliant. We're going to be hearing from Cedric a little bit later on in the program, who's been instrumental in the program. And so it's very exciting because we have people that are passionate and willing to work alongside these youth. And folks, teams can apply and they can apply on their own if they're able to meet the project goals by themselves, or with teams as well. And they'll receive up to $50,000 in project funding. And so the really nice thing about this too is that it's not just that 50,000 alone, because we understand that there's a lot of moving parts to these projects as well. And so what we also have is that mentorship and project advisors. We also have $1,500 allocated for teams and the individuals to do elder engagement. We also have a wraparound support fund, so that can look like things that could be creating barriers for youth to take part in this space. We really try to use that funding to make sure that we can, break that down. Sometimes that means even getting them a computer or helping them with internet connection. Things like that, people don't always think about in these projects, in these project processes that we want to tackle. The other thing too is we do $2,500 for certification and professional development training. And in a lot of ways, we get to, engage with the youth and bring them into spaces that they don't typically see themselves in. And that can be really incredible as well. There's guided project management templates that our coordinators have worked on so tirelessly, that really walks them through, exactly what they're going to be needing from start to finish in this process, so that we're really helping them and not leaving them alone in this process. They get the Energize 101 curriculum modules, and they have numerous networking opportunities. And so going into a little bit of the networking opportunities on the next slide here is our ImaGENation participants actually had the opportunity to attend the 2022 7Gen Indigenous Youth Energy Summit. And in that process, youth really got to all come together and feel empowered, because oftentimes, when you're doing these in community, you can feel a little bit alone too. And what's really amazing is we got to all bring these youth together to kind of discuss what they're doing, talk about visions for the future. And it was really quite beautiful. And so they get capacity building in these spaces. They get partnership development from the sponsors that go to 7Gen, that we can then connect with these projects to kind of help them push it a little bit further. They get that community and kinship that we talked about, and then that leadership development to, really show our Indigenous youth as the innovators of today. And so the next 7Gen Summit is going to be sometime in autumn of 2024. Very exciting. And that's not all, we send them to other events as well as are applicable to their project. Now, what we see here now is the technical mentorship and project advisors. Like I had said, we have tons of partners, that we work with in this process as well. While the program's ran by 3 different organizations, we have many, many experts that come into play through our ICE network that actually really help the youth throughout this process. So it helps them define the scope, project management, budgeting, preliminary design, risk mitigation, safety and quality assurance, Indigenous community engagement, securing project sponsorship and funding, contact and network referrals. And also what we're looking into for cohort 2 is also to have mental health support capacity for our project cohorts as well, because it's a lot of work to do these different programs. And so I know I've been talking quite a bit about the program, but it's very exciting. And I think it's a brilliant program that we're very excited to launch. But with that, I want to hand it back over to Justin to talk a little bit more about project themes.
Thanks, Aubrianne. Yeah. So at the start, we just, like back in 2021, we didn't want to limit the imagination of the youth. So the project themes are still to this day. There is an other category, but we do want them to be centered on clean energy as it relates to the land, water, food, and infrastructure sustainability solutions that impact Indigenous communities. And projects of all scopes and sizes will be considered for the ImaGENation program. We can help you get your idea off the ground as well. Ideally, the project does fall within a $50,000 project scope, but we do have additional funding here and there. It's not guaranteed, and our team will be there to support you in applying for additional financial resources, which a lot of teams have been really successful in finding a lot more than $50,000. And yeah, it may be helpful to think about the energy around in your community, what they rely on currently, the potential renewable options that you have access to, as well as areas in gaps or efficiency costs that can be addressed. So we'll repeat ourselves over and over, but you can always contact us. Our phone number is even out there. Once you get in touch with us, I'm open to supporting project ideas before you even apply. I've already done it last weekend, and this is the limit is your imagination, to be a little bit corny. So what does that, did I skip a slide? No. So like Aubrianne said, we've worked really hard on the guided project templates. It's a phase bundle of 4 phases, originally conceived by our wonderful program youth director, Alexandra Thompson, and in collaboration with our partners and the whole ICE team and our project advisors. So I won't completely go over every detail of I think there's about 40 pages of guided template. And if I went over that, it would take hours, but you can see that it guides you through the process of project development. And what that can look like over time, I just wanted to give a quick example. So the onboarding process will begin straight after applications. We'll be handing out, our selection will take a bit of time, but acceptance letters will be sent around March, in the middle of March, and then we'll have orientation beginning first or second week of April, pending everybody's availability. And as you can see, it takes us all the way to September 2025. Kind of hard to think about that far ahead, but that's what planning is for. And the application process, um, they're designed to assess those 3 points there. The project's benefit to the land, basically the impact and the level of preparation and supports that you all have already. Not totally needed, but the more the better, and strengths and passion of your team. Also, we've made it a little more accessible and just exciting. You can attach videos or recordings, audio recordings of your application if you want to do it that way through upload or YouTube, however you want to do it. And in terms of, well, yeah, just to strengthen your application, I would say key thing is to remember to keep the scope achievable. We do have an option for beyond, like option B in your project plan to like what would you do with more than $50,000 of funding? It's important to think about. But keeping the scope reasonable and having strong community support early on with your partners as well, developing relationships early on. That's like the key thing, and we're going to talk more about that with Cedric and get some tips and tricks from our previous team that's from Sagkeeng and how we assess the criteria of an application basically is like project scope, how reasonable it is, and the impacts, environmental and community impacts, and the existing support you already might have, and also passion. We do interviews, so we will get a real good sense of what it might be like to work with you, and what you'll get a sense of what it might be like to work with all of us. Um, and with that, all that, I'd like to pass it off to Ray to share a bit more about some projects and how teams have been going through the ImaGENation program.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Um, so with this program, with ImaGENation, you'll see that we provide funding for the projects for things like certifications or the technical supplies that you're going to need for your project. Um, One thing that we're trying to figure out is the best way to support the individual as they go through the program. So we don't really have a mechanism by which to pay you for your work in the program other than this partnership with Generation Power. So Generation Power is a great way to sort of get yourself almost hired by your community if you are doing work that is really needed or wanted by the community itself. So Generation Power is a wage subsidy program where we will sort of provide you with almost like an internship with your community. You can get sort of hired by your community, and we would provide a wage subsidy of up to 75% of your salary to sort of offset that cost for the community. It's a little confusing, but it can be sort of worked out once we figure out what your needs are and what your interest is and how your relationship is built with your community. And so this is up to $30,000 to kind of just have you brought on as almost the project steward on behalf of your community. Some other systems that we have in place to support you as you're going through, like Aubrey had mentioned, were these wage subs or the wraparound supports. So if there are any sort of barriers to you accessing this work, or you're fully committed to the project, but you need support with childcare or something like that, then we have abilities to sort of support you in that way. And Generation Power is sort of secondary youth program to the ImaGENation program. I don't mean secondary in any kind of hierarchical way. I just mean that when I think about it, it's the other youth program that we have. And so that also works on its own as its own sort of self-sustaining program, by which if you were to be interested in a role within an independent company, that you could also get this wage subsidy. I'm seeing some questions about the difference in funding. The 30,000 would be a sort of different pool of funding. That would be almost like an employment support for you to just sort of continue your work as though you're working full time for us. And that would be the 50,000 would still be going to the project elements. So technical supplies and advisors and things like that, legal fees and things of that nature. And that I'm sure people will have questions about, and we can kind of dig into the weeds on how that would look for your individual circumstance. But moving right along, we'll go into some project examples to see how folks were able to apply that funding in various ways. So one of our star teams from cohort 1 is the Nimki Youth Collective. Quinn Mayawasage and Taryn Bobiwash, they were both instrumental in this project up in Serpent River First Nation. And this was a culture and language revitalization camp that they were able to install solar upgrades, drill a well, and install solar-powered water pumps, just to make sure that they could sustain themselves off-grid year-round while they're putting together this sort of developing this language camp. We were really excited they were able to use some of the funding to seed wild rice along the riverbank. So really just kind of bringing back the traditions and sort of just revitalizing the nature of the area in and of itself. And so that was a really great project to work on. I'm really excited to see how that takes off and continues. And that team was able to join us on a number of our networking opportunities as well, which we'll talk about a little bit more with the Sagkeeng team here in a minute. Bodana Innes, Healing Our Home, was a really fantastic project as well. That one, I had the good fortune to actually visit her community up in Moose Cree First Nation as part of our ImaGENation film series, which is a whole other can of worms, which I love talking about. And so her project was really designing energy efficient housing and in this sort of meeting the community needs and sort of addressing different elements of housing that were not addressed with the standard build of the community in the past. So her plan, she was actually able to partner with their housing department to go ahead with a plan for a new housing development in Moose Factory First Nation. And so that's partnership with Child and Family Services. That she hosted a really fantastic engagement session, really ideas from the community of what they wanted to see, what types of buildings and what types of structures would be best suited for that community. And as part of our ImaGENation film series, that was part of cohort 1. We're kind of in the works on that, so it's a to be determined whether or not that will keep going. But we had a pool of funding from Canadian Heritage, and we were able to put together some documentary style videos just highlighting the youth projects and where they're planning on taking their projects forward. And yeah, Bodana is one of our stars as well. So she will be attending the Globe Forum in February, speaking on behalf of the program. And she really has quite a thorough experience working with us. So we're really happy to have her insight. Sagkeeng we have on the call today, so I won't say too much about them. I will let them speak for themselves. But again, another opportunity where I felt very fortunate to visit their community as well. And they were putting together a solar greenhouse in conjunction with their academic school system. So their local high school, they built the greenhouse on the location, and it's going to be sort of an educational collaboration between the Sagkeeng youth team and the Anishinaabe High School. And so they're on the call today. I'm going to let them take sort of control of their narrative here, but I was fortunate to be able to visit their community and also go with them to the Campwood conference in Toronto last May, I believe, and just got to hear them speak on youth perspective in the clean energy space, really echoing what Aubrey-Anne said at the beginning about how, you know, there's this expectation that youth might not be the experts in their field, but if we just let them run with the ideas that they have and really build on the expertise that they already own and have in their heads, then they're really going to do wonderful things. So they're on the call today. I will let all the questions go to them, but that's just me geeking about our cohort 1 folks. So thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Yeah, so my name's Sarah Fontaine. We're from Sagkeeng First Nation in Manitoba. Currently, I'm residing on Salt Spring Island for the winter, and it's the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples. I'll let Tegan introduce herself now.
Um, Hi everyone, my name's Tegan Morso. I'm also from Sagkeeng. I'm currently residing in Winnipeg, Manitoba right now. I'm actually part of the Generation Power cohort too, so I have an internship and I'm at my workplace right now. So um, I guess we'll get started with the presentation here. So these are pretty much some of our highlights that we wanted to share with you guys. We have our greenhouse there. It's finally fully built after 2 years. And we also have our solar panel installation there. And like Ray mentioned, the camp conference last year, that was my first time actually speaking on a panel, and it was really nerve-wracking. So that was a really cool experience for me because I'm a shy person, and working on this project, I knew I needed to push myself out there some more. And it's kind of funny because um, when me and Sarah first started the project, she actually approached me. We didn't really know each other. I was more shy and she was more outgoing, so it worked for us. Um, and I think one of the best things about our team, one of our greatest successes, is having a really strong team, and that's what really brought us to where we are today. And I'll let Sarah share on that a bit too.
Yeah, so like Tegan had said, we didn't know each other. Our community had a youth group and we kind of knew each other through the grapevine. We both wanted to work on food security, so I had approached her and we had seen the advertisement for this program through a Facebook ad, which was really neat. And so one of the first steps that I really recommend that we didn't do and we learned from this project is really creating those community partnerships beforehand. A lot of our community partnerships we had approached afterwards, and it worked out great for us, but that's not always going to be the case. And so I really strongly suggest, like, when you're thinking about your project and what impact you want to make, really think about your community and how they tie into that and how they could best support your project. And so we started off with a student survey using Google Forms, which I highly suggest that you could gauge perspectives from community members. You could also do a community information session event. And during the interview process, we actually created a presentation on what our vision was, what the impact would be. And I feel like that really helped us get accepted for ImaGENation. And there's no small or large projects. I know the projects that we just talked about had a pretty large impact on the community. I knew Nimki project before this cohort actually because I was familiar with the work that they were doing on the land. And so I know we had one of the projects in the first cohort was a food truck, a solar powered food truck. And so like someone would think that is smaller, but the impact is still large because what her goal was to bring healthy food options to the powwow trail. So there is no small project. I just wanted to touch base on that. It doesn't need to be something really large. Like, all of these things are relevant and they do matter in the transition. And yeah, we, like Tegan had also mentioned, currently she's working with PowerTech Solar right now. I think she's been there for over a year, which was an internship position, again, through Generation Power that came to us through doing ImaGENation. So all these opportunities came to us through this program. And like presenting, we did our first presentation there. We are on stage. That was really empowering to be a part of, and just the development, our personal development and our career development through doing this program was really transcending. And it was also because of our mentors, not just the mentorships through ImaGENation, but our mentors that we were partnered with through the program. And so we were partnered with Mike Reynolds of Eco Home Network, and he was located in another province, and it still worked out really good. Yeah, I think maybe I'll stop there. We did tap into those personal development funds. We ended up taking some courses in project management, and again, we've both been working some amazing jobs since joining this program. So I really I'm just like really happy with all the opportunity it's brought for for us and everyone else that participated.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sarah and Keegan. That was so beautifully said. And I would just want to talk about it more and more, but I do want to get to the end so that we have as much time as possible for folks to ask questions. And with that, Cedric, I'd like to invite you to offer some of your advice and introduce yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. And so my name is Cedric, and I've been working with ICE since about 2018, mentor for the Catalyst program, mentor for the Bringing It Home program, pretty much all the programs. So I kind of help out with a lot of that stuff. I'm really about the specifics, right? How do we get these projects off the ground, right? And the simple answer to that is one step at a time. That's as easy as it gets, right? I know, talking to a lot of youth. I'm also a professor at St. Lawrence College in the Energy Systems Engineering Technology program. So I work with a lot of youth that are really trying to figure out what they're going to do, what kind of projects they want to take on, and to be very frank, it can be very overwhelming, right? So I really help in kind of taking it step by step and really thinking about the details, the how we actually make this happen. And I think Sarah's point of community connections, obviously, we had multiple discussions about this, but that's really important, right? And I always say the beginning of a project, and if you're considering whether you should apply to this program or not, really start thinking about and start having conversations with community groups, right? With your school groups, family and children's services, your band, all of these people. The technical term is what we call a needs assessment, but this is really conversations with community groups, with community members, and saying like, hey, what kind of project would benefit our community most? And that's a good starting point. And I know we'll go to the Q&A later, but like knowing how fleshed out your project needs to be at this point, it's mainly an idea and having those conversations. And then as your project develops further, then making those conversations into kind of real partnerships with the various entities is essential to making the project successful. So I just want to say I've been very blessed to kind of learn from all of the youth in this program, and it's been very inspiring to see how far they've come and the growth. And I always want to say that this is when we're talking about a big project and big ideas, right? One step at a time, one phase at a time. It could be a little project, and all that experience you gain essentially gets the snowball rolling, right? And once you get going, you're going to see throughout the next project will be, even bigger, and the one after that will be even bigger than that one, and so on and so forth. So I just want to say that this is an excellent program to give you those resources, because the hardest part in all of this is getting started. That's the hardest part, is how do you start? I have an idea. How do I start? I don't even know where to begin. And this is where I think imagination really, really comes into play and can get you that kind of boost to get you going. And then once that ball is rolling, you'll be a force to be reckoned with. So I look forward to seeing that.
Thanks so much, Cedric. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, Cedric helps this ImaGENation staff do our work. He is a multidisciplinary man. It is time for questions and answers, and between Ray, myself, and Aubrey Ann, we should be able to get through most of them. And I see on the chat, yeah, so Cedric spoke to this a little bit, but from Tiana, how detailed or established does our project idea need to be? And it can just be literally an idea from your imagination. It's obviously we have a strategic responsibility to onboard some projects that might only be an idea, and some projects that might have a lot of existing support or progress. But really, the more you can do to demonstrate why you want to do this, what kind of impact it's going to have on your community. But it doesn't have to be at any particular established stage. If anyone else, Ray or Aubrey, wants to speak on that.
Yeah, I would add, I agree with Justin that it really is whatever you can kind of envision. If you can add more detail, that would be great. We do want to make sure that you have fleshed it out to the best of your abilities. And obviously that's what we're here to help with, is that capacity and creating opportunity for that vision to grow. Um, just so that we can avoid things like scope creep or complete change of, switching gears, things like that. If you can be as detailed as you can about what your ultimate vision is, what kind of partnerships you already have established, what kind of community engagement has been done, or any ideas like that, just kind of give us all the information that you have so that we know where we're like what our starting point is. But yeah, it doesn't have to be a complete project when you send in your application.
Yes, and thank you, Ray and Justin, for answering that too. And I just want to say too, the beautiful thing about the ImaGENation program is this is a second cohort, and so we have quite a bit of flexibility still. As while it's new and we've learned so much and it's come such a long way, and it's amazing. Like you see people like Sarah and Tegan who have built incredible projects. They've gone international to do advocating on this in this space, and so it's really amazing to kind of see where the youth go. But it's because we're able to be flexible too. And we want to keep that in mind too as we keep going. We want to be able to continue to walk with youth with where they're at. And that means a lot of different things. And so that doesn't mean every team that's onboarded or every individual that's onboarded is going to be in the exact same space. So it's nice that we're able to do that as well. And I would say too, another thing is that, we really just want to find youth as well that are going to have the time to dedicate to this program because while we're as flexible as we can, it is a large undertaking to want to build some form of a clean energy initiative in 18 months. And it happens quite quickly. And we're always there to walk alongside the folks in it. But, really being able to display that you have that passion, that commitment, that dedication, that's also what we're looking for too. So your project doesn't have to be at the final stages yet. That's our role is kind of to try to help you folks get there. And that doesn't mean your project ends at 18 months. It goes beyond, and Sarah and Teakins will go beyond and continue helping with their community. And so it's really amazing too. We're just there to kind of be part of that journey with you folks.
If I could address two questions here in terms of capital expenses and can the 50,000 be used as seed money for future funding? I find this extremely important. The fact of using some of this funding and kind of, like I said, getting that ball rolling to then translate into a bigger project is definitely part of the scope. One thing that I find really tricky with a lot of communities that I work with is the what I call the cost of finding the cost. And that's like that initial development of how do you actually develop this? How are we going to do this? All that actually takes money. And it's really hard to fund those early stages through kind of traditional financing mechanisms, let's just say. So what I think ImaGENation can do is kind of start that base that you can kind of build off to apply for more funding. And I know Sarah and Tikan, you guys kind of went through this as well. And this allows you to build those proposals so that you can get more funding for your later stages of your project. So I would say, yes, it can be used for capital expenses, and yes, it could be used for future funding.
Thank you for that, Cedric. I know there's another question here too about does the program have limitations regarding where it has to be executed? I can touch on that a little bit, and Justin, Ray, if you want to speak to kind of what other projects have done too, feel free to jump in. But like I said, we're very flexible in this program. Of course, if these projects they have to take place in what's currently called Canada for one, so that's one thing that we're looking for. And then another thing that we're also looking for is while we do encourage it to be in Indigenous communities, we're also open to looking at projects that are there to support and benefit Indigenous communities and peoples, no matter where that is. So if your project, kind of lies in that area where it might not be directly within an Indigenous community, but it's going to benefit Indigenous communities and peoples, we welcome those applications as well. And for you to, kind of point out exactly what that's going to do and what that's going to mean for these communities. And we're happy to take a look and meet with you folks further too. We don't want the application process to be something that's daunting for you or maybe overwhelms you, or if you have questions, we're always here to jump on a phone call, answer an email or anything like that, and really help you with it as well. Justin and Ray, if you want to touch on anything about where other projects have taken place, feel free.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they could even be in cyberspace. So-called Canada is definitely one of our funders' requirements, but For example, I've been helping a team, or we did have one application with decentralized power smart grids using through blockchain and solar energy. So that's yeah, all I think I want to say about that. And it's some, there's some background stuff. Like we do have to try and get accept teams from as many communities across Canada as possible. So there's a whole bunch of questions here, actually. There can be up to 5 people, participants on a team, but we can only accept up to 16 youth in the whole program for this cohort. There's uh, our aim was to try and get one cohort per year, but it's really kind of complicated to get into here. And the next cohort, my dream would be to have another one starting next January, but we'll see when we get there. And that question from Sylvia. And so the team lead does have to be 18 to 30. But you can have team members who are over, or even, I mean, yeah, over 30, and allies as well, non-Indigenous allies.
Yeah, and just to build on what Justin said too, like with folks that do have like a project that they're working on, and perhaps they're not every team member is Indigenous, we would welcome that team to still apply, and then we could onboard the Indigenous person that is in that project team to still be part of ImaGENation. And that way you still get the advisor supports, you'd still access the funding, but within the program itself, it might look like just a couple folks from like the actual team are in the program itself. So we are quite flexible on that front as well. I know I keep saying we're so flexible, and so it can get confusing, and that's why, but like that's what we really try to do with this program is, we do want to decolonize our programming. And so that's why we try to be as flexible, because we know not everything's going to match every community. And so that's why we try to adjust as we need. Sarah, I know that you had your hand up. Would you like to share anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to supplement on the timeline question and why Justin's answer was kind of open-ended. And this is a really big reality for a lot of projects. So because of that, like we'll say something might take 12 months, but because we're hiring contractors and we're working with so many different people, that deadlines are always going to be pushed back, and that's a reality. And I just want to like encourage people not to get discouraged because of that. Something that might say we estimate 12 months, it might take 24 months. And that's like a huge reality with projects and developments. And so just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I want to echo that as well, especially when we're working in Canada. If there's any groundbreaking projects or any sort of like outdoor builds, winter gets in the way of even our best laid plans. And so there's only so much that you can do. We onboard, this is our second full cohort. We did have a sort of fast track model earlier in the winter, I guess a full year ago now. So to answer the question about how many cohorts per year, this is our sort of third run at it. And we anticipate it would take about 18 months to complete once you do get onboarded. And we will see if there is going to be overlap with a cohort 3 or going forward. But at this point in time, like Sarah said, we do not expect that these are going to be like sort of quick, in and out kind of projects. There's going to be times that we can't control the universe. So that is just going to be kind of, we go with what we can. And like Aubrey said, quite flexible, and we'll just sort of take life as it comes with these projects.
Totally. I see a question from Sylvia about can project funding be for services organizations who support Indigenous entrepreneurship programs? We have been talking about that. Alexandra and I do hope to see applications from some such youth services organizations. Actually, we can take questions, like if you want to raise your hand and speak, we can get some dialogue going as well, if anyone feels that need.
And while anyone's like thinking of any questions too, I know we don't have to go the full hour, but just to touch again on the program, the process can seem quite overwhelming. It is $50,000 and mentorship that you go through, and it's an 18-month commitment minimum. And it's attending in-person events, and it's jumping out of your comfort zone. And a lot of the time it seems very overwhelming when you look at the entire picture of it. But what we really want to do is we want you folks to know that, we are genuinely there to walk alongside you. I know I'm still new to the team, but that's one of my biggest priorities is I don't want anyone to be shied away from the program. I know Tegan said that going into this space originally, she was a little bit shy, and now look at her. She's, advocating on international spaces alongside Sarah. And it's a beautiful thing, that these friendships and that we really find our voices in this space. And so we want to encourage folks to do that. And like I said, we are quite flexible. So that means everyone's project timelines are going to look a little bit different. Not every project that goes through the process is going to look the same, as well as not every team is going to look the same. It's going to have different age ranges. It's going to have people who are Indigenous and non-Indigenous on the project team sometimes as well. It's going to have folks who have different levels of education, and that's completely fine. That's where our team really does step in, our advisors, our technical mentors, our team at ICE itself, at 7Gen and at Student Energy, we're all there to make sure that we can support you in this process. And we know that that looks different. And that's why we have such a large ICE network available, so that we can pair you with the people that are most suitable to your project. And so at the end of the day, that is our goal. We don't do this program for ourselves. We do this program so that we can support Indigenous youth in, seeing a future where there's clean energy, that they're, in that process and they're directly leading that process. And so we really are there. And if you folks do want to talk, and even if you don't feel comfortable to share it in this webinar, we have availability to speak with you folks as well between our team. If there's no questions, Justin, I think Justin and Ray, I know you've been lovely MCs, and we've heard from the brilliant Sarah and Tegan and our lovely technical advisor, Cedric. But Justin, Ray, if you want to maybe start to wrap us up, and then we'll share our contact information as well for folks to keep in touch.
Totally.
Actually,
Thanks.
before we end it, I got a question. Darby Essie from Sioux Valley Dakota Nation. I'm located in Manitoba. And right now in Sioux Valley, I got a project going for geothermals to be installed into our homes. And now I'm just wondering if I wanted to add solar panels also to the geothermals to those homes, would I be able to do that?
Cedric, I think this is your time to shine.
Oh, sure. From a technical point, absolutely. Yes. Funding and project and scoping wise, like how many homes we're talking about, if it's part of a larger kind of retrofit project. I think Jana was one of the past cohorts. It was also kind of intertwined with her housing project. She was also part of the Bringing It Home retrofit accelerator, which helps with that. So short answer, yes. Yeah, we could look at the specifics and how that works in terms of scale and cost. Just to say, like, again, a normal like 1 to 2 houses could probably be done in the $50,000 range. But if you're talking about 20 houses, that's a bit of bigger scope. But it could be what ImaGENation program can do is really help building what that project would look like on a larger scale, and then basically making that as a pitch to apply for further funding to get it fully funded.
That sounds really, really good. Because right now what I got going on is that I got 25 homes that are going to be getting geothermal, but I've also thought on the end of energy efficiency because I work with Energy Efficiency Manitoba. I'm actually one of their advocates, and we're right now helping the homes be more energy efficient, so any type of energy or any type of uses that going inside the home doesn't get wasted. So I wanted to do the geothermals and that before I went to solar panels. So this is perfect. Like especially if I can keep reapplying to get some more solar panels, I could take this to my chief and council and let them know about this, and they'll be happy because we've been looking into solar panels, but there's always that question of, but are you ready for them?
Yes. And that's, again, we can have a much more detailed discussion on that topic for sure. But there's a lot of programs specifically on housing right now that can really tackle what you're trying to do.
Perfect.
Absolutely, yeah. Reach out and I'll have your email from registration, so you'll hear from us. And just a little story, I was building a home in BC and they put geothermal in. The house was amazingly warm all winter, but his complaint was the homeowner, that his power bills were just as much as what he was heating his last home because he had to run pumps and the fans for a furnace. So the solar component makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, I've heard about that too, and our trainer is the one that actually helped solve that. He is the geothermal president of Western Canada, and the reason why that is because calculation in the pipes were wrong.
Mm,
Why they're very very keen on getting those calculations on perfect. And trust
yeah,
me, that took it was hard. Let's just say that.
yeah, yeah. It gets complicated and very almost chemical engineering, process engineering. I can imagine the calculations.
Yeah. I'll just say, as this is kind of my area, I always look at it like take a step back, right? What is the need, right? The need is to have a heated home, well ventilated home, well insulated home, right? So I don't like to specifically tie it to any one technology or any one solution. It's really focusing on what is the outcome we're looking for, and then doing a good holistic approach to seeing what solutions can meet those desired outcomes in a very simple way without going too deep into the technical realm.
All right, well, that's everything I got. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Darby. That was a great question. And honestly, it led into Sylvia's question in the chat here about pilot projects can come in as well. We welcome all projects from all project stages, whether we're walking with you at the start of your clean energy journey or if it's a little bit further down the line for projects that already exist as well. ImaGENation can really be a helping hand to you. So the answer is yes, whatever stage your energy project is at, even if it's just in your imagination, as Justin keeps saying, we are more than open to accepting those applications and walk alongside you folks as well. In terms of the question on, when the next call out for a cohort will be, kind of just echoing what Ray had said earlier, we're going to play it by ear. We want to make sure that we have our capacity. Right now we have it open for cohort 2. We want to make sure our capacity is there to really help cohort 2 and make sure that they're seeing success and feel supported in that process. And once we kind of see how that's going, then we'll evaluate when the next cohort will be launched as well. But for folks that are maybe like on the edge and not too sure exactly what they want to do, I would say apply now. Even if you're unsure, we don't know when the next cohort's going to come out, and so if you don't want to wait, and if it's something you're passionate and excited about, I would say apply today. And honestly, it could be one of the best decisions that you make, and you'll meet a lot of great people in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as eligibility is concerned, we would accept kind of applications from any stage of the process, any sort of brand new ideas, all the way out to, existing ideas. And I guess also what I wanted to say is if you have any questions, if you're not quite sure if now's the right time to apply and you're really still not sure, submitting an application and just, hoping for the best is the way to go, you are all welcome to communicate with any one of us on staff. Reach out to us if you want to set up a conversation one-on-one. Before the applications close, we have until February 19th to do that. So if you're still on the fence and you really just kind of want to talk shop with someone before submitting that application, please feel free to do so. And we're always willing to have a conversation about the technical logistics of what that might look like. So yeah, don't let any uncertainty stop you from going ahead with something like this.
exactly. Thanks, Ray. And this is basically wrapping it up. February 19th, 2024 at midnight. And I don't really anticipate extending the applications, but I guess we'll see. And that's at Pacific time, midnight there, to capture the whole uh, time zone. And that's it. If you have further questions, of course, you can contact Alexandra and Aubrey Ann and any one of us. Are on our website. All of our contact information is there as well.
Incredible. Awesome. Thank you everyone so much for attending. We appreciate all your questions. Feel free to keep in touch. Otherwise, we hope you have a safe rest of your week and take care. And we hope to see your applications come in.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Cheers.
Yeah. Thank you.